Hello, everyone. So, the other day, Marco asked me about the format of my exam, and I was thinking since many of us actually teach CS110, I thought it might be useful to go over my test and maybe it'll give you some ideas, or maybe you want to use something similar, but that's up to you. But anyways, I thought some people might like to know how I set mine up. So the first thing I did was I provided an exam guide, so telling students um, exactly what the test is like. I even put some screenshots. And my test is made with two parts where they actually download a file, they complete it, and then they upload it in this space. And Marco had asked me how I created a question like this, and I'll show you in a little bit. So this is the guide. This is I published this already, so students can already have an idea of what's expected of them. Okay. And then the next thing I did was I created kind of like a dummy test. So the reason I did this was I was kind of worried that I might get the excuse from some students saying, "Oh, I didn't know how long it would take to upload my file, and at the end of the exam, it took me 20 minutes to upload my file, and the connection died, or I didn't have enough time. I went over the 1 hour and 40 minutes because it took too long to upload my file." So this was a kind of a dummy exam where they could actually test their upload and download speeds so that they don't really have an excuse. So if they know they have a slow connection, this will kind of verify it for them, so they know that, okay, for me to upload an Excel file, it's going to take 5 minutes, and they should plan for that ahead of time. So that's kind of a trial for them. In this trial, I just gave them some random file, some Excel file with a similar size to the actual exam file. My exam file is about 200 kilobytes, which is really nothing, so they shouldn't have upload and download problems regarding time. It shouldn't take that long, but depending, if you decide to do that, depending on your file size, maybe students would like to try that, how long it takes them to upload 1 megabyte or 2 megabytes or whatever. Okay, so that's a test for them, which again is available already for them to test out. And here's the actual final exam that you can see is hidden to them and will be made available on the 5th of May, all day until midnight. I put 11:59 because midnight confuses me and sometimes confuses students. So I usually put 11:59. Okay, so my final exam, much like what you saw before, two parts, right? Download Word file, complete it, upload, same for the Excel file. Okay, so that's what I do. I make them complete these files to demonstrate their skills. Now, the exam itself, I have 3 versions of the exam because I do have a little bit of worry about students cheating. For example, maybe they take their exam, they do it, and they email it to their buddy, right? And their buddy could basically just put their name on the file and submit the exact same file. And hopefully you catch that, but I've devised some things to kind of help me catch such cases. So here you can see I have 3 versions of my exam. That's first version, and that's the second version. And you can't really see the differences in the exam. When I actually upload them, I name them slightly different. And I kind of thought, if I name this final exam Word Remote 2, they might start to understand that that's a second version and it's different from a third version or something like that. So I did a little bit different. So for example, one of my versions is final space exam space Word space remote. One of my versions is final exam and I take out the space. So for a student, they wouldn't really catch on to that. But for me, I would understand that if I have no space there, that's exam version 2 or exam version 3. Or if I take out the space here, I would know that's exam version 3 or whatever. Okay, and also inside the test itself, I made a little thing which, let me just find it. Sorry, need to change my window size. There we go. Somewhere on my document, I put a little number that's kind of inconspicuous. So something that probably wouldn't be noticed to students, or they might even see it but have no idea what that is. And to me, that tells me this is test version 2. So if I know that on Moodle a student did test version 2, and their file this is a different number, I'm going to be a little bit suspicious. Okay, so a few things that I've kind of set up for myself to kind of be able to track my students, I guess. It's not a perfect system, but little things I think can help here and there. Okay, so how do I get Moodle to select a random version? So when a student comes into the test, they might randomly get version 2, or another student comes in and they randomly get version 1. Okay, so how do I set that up? So what you do in edit quiz here, you can see that I do have it set up here. It says a random question from this Word test bank and random question from this Excel test bank. Okay, so before you can do this, you actually have to set up your question bank. Okay, so let's go back to the main page of my course, and in here, going to more, down at the bottom here, you can see the question banks, questions and categories. Now what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go into categories, and you're going to create a new category. So Word test bank, for example, and then you create it. And once you've created, they'll appear up here. I'm not going to do this one because I've already created it. So once you've created it, once you go in there, Word test bank, here is where you can create your questions. And as you can see, I've created 3 questions, which are just duplicates. I made one test, one question, duplicated it, and I have 3 versions. And each version, when I made that question, they're exactly the same. I just change the file that I gave them. Okay, so when you click on this, I give version 2, right? On this one here, when they click this link, they get version 1. And of course, on this one here, when they click that link, they'll get version 3. Okay, so what the quiz does, it will select a random one from one of these 3. So you kind of get the idea. I hope I was clear about that. I hope I didn't confuse you. So maybe I should just repeat that. So creating the questions, each question is exactly the same, or appears exactly the same. You can see if I click on version 1, it looks like that. If I click on version 2, it looks like that. The only thing that changes in these 3 questions is the file that I've linked to this link here. Okay, so clicking on this link will give me a different file depending on which question it is. Okay, so once I've set up those question banks and the 3 versions inside that bank, so the same is done for Excel. So once I've done that, I can go back to my test. Okay, edit questions, edit quiz, sorry. And here where you add, here's where you add a random question. And it says, okay, so which question bank do you want to add random questions from? And you say, I want to add a random question, right? One random question from the Excel test bank, and it shows you that. So that's how I've set up my exam to make random question or take random questions from a question bank. So you can see here, if I attempt the quiz, download this file, and this is giving me, I can see that this is giving me version 2 because I can see there's no space between final and exam. Okay, let's try to start new preview, see if it gives me a different one. Start attempt. Let's click on this one, and this one has given me all the spaces there, so I know this is version 1 of the exam. Of course, students can change the name of that, but if you go into Moodle, it will tell you which exam that they actually took, version 1, version 2, or version 3, depending on how you name the question. Okay. Oops. Okay, so if you have any questions, just ask me. Hopefully you found that helpful, or maybe it gave you some ideas of how you want to structure your exam.